Hello, hello. We are live. If you're with me live here, let me know in the chat. Give me a what's up. Give me a hello. Drop an emoji. Let me know you're with me here. What's up? What's up? Drop something in the chat if you're here with me live. Make sure my chat's going here. Give me one sec. What's up? We got bold and nothing. What's up? We got bold and nothing. All right. Whoops. Hold on. Let me get rid of that echo. What's happening? We got bold and nothing in the chat. What's up, my man? We got Jess Spartacus. What's up? Yo, yo, yo. We are live here. Great to see you all here. As we have people trickle in throughout this live. Hopefully you have been conquering your days. Today was a conditioning day for me, so I was doing some sprints today. Never been a runner in my life, but something about sprints, man, it's just short, intense, and just right, especially if you warm up appropriately. You know, there's no aches and pains and things like that. Obviously, if you're playing Infinite and you're going through the dynamic warm up, this is something that I'm sure has paid off in your training and how you feel throughout the day and things like that. So that's just a brief little update on how my day was. You know, as maybe one day, I might do like a day in the life or something like that, a YouTube series or something like that. When my life gets a little bit more exciting. But yeah, great to have you all here. The topic of discussion today, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter live today, but it's going to be way more fun, I think. Topic of discussion today is muscle building. Specifically, which one of our 8 classes are the best for maximizing muscle gains specifically. So which classes are better than others? You know, which ones are not so great when it comes to focusing on building muscle? You know, who's got the top rank as far as S rank when it comes to building muscle in that class? Let me know in the chat. Drop in the chat your guess, which class. I'll be obviously breaking down each one of these classes, so if you're not aware of all of our classes, don't worry. I'll be walking you through, but if you are familiar with Infinite's class system, drop your pick in the chat. I'm curious. I did a poll a little bit later, so we had a hefty amount of people have a one-sided vote on a particular class, but I want to hear your thoughts first before I reveal who that is. Who's the winner? Bold nothing. We got Barbarian. Any other guesses other than the Barbarian? The Bob. Personally, I am a Barbarian fan in every single RPG I've ever played. I always choose Barbarian above anything else. And then over time, obviously, as I became a mentor, I started to gravitate towards the wizard class or any type of mage type in a lot of these games. So it's been a big change. Just Spartacus, you already know my answer. Yes, I do. Yep, barbarians lead the way, of course. Yeah, that was the number one pick on the poll that I did on Facebook. Overwhelmingly, almost 100% picked barbarian. So very, very interesting to see the one-sided victory. I guess broadcasting the barbarian at Infinite is something that we do often, I suppose. Not to mention, a lot of our warriors choose the barbarian class when they first enter Infinite anyway. And we'll discuss why, right? That why is the barbarian such a popular class? How does the barbarian class rank amongst the other classes, specifically for our brand new Earth Mastery, which is muscle building? So let's dive straight in and break it down. So, move my window here. As you can see here, we have Infinite's 8 classes all underneath this tier list. I broke down this tier list from S all the way down to E. We don't have F on here. There's a lot of negative connotation when it comes to having F as a rank. Most people think of that as like meaningless. None of these classes in Infinite are meaningless. Each one of these classes in some way can build muscle. So there's no F rank for any of our classes, so I just completely got rid of it. Instead, we have it from E going all the way up to S rank, being peak muscle building class. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to walk you through each one of these classes and kind of break it down for you and just really kind of walk through the thought process of why I'm placing some of these classes in particular areas. So what I want to start first is the Orc class. The Orc class, in my opinion, sits at A rank. Now, what is the Orc class? The Orc class specializes in powerlifting. Now, powerlifting and muscle building are, one's a training style, one's a training goal, right? Muscle building is a byproduct of doing whatever training style that you're doing, right? Now, typically when it comes to powerlifting, most powerlifters focus on strength and power, not what we call the scientific term of building muscle is muscle hypertrophy. So what that means is most powerlifters are really, really focusing on maximizing strength output and maximizing power output. So inside the gym, what that looks like is that's typically rep ranges anywhere between 1 and I would even say upwards to possibly even 10 repetitions. Anything more than that kind of gets a little bit deeper into muscular endurance as you get higher towards that 10 mark. But most powerlifters are training in the lower rep ranges. And basically, when you improve your strength, you can also build muscle. So that's one of the big reasons why I think Orc class sits at an A rank. Because if you've looked at any powerlifters, most of them are big. Trust me, there are those genetically, gifted powerlifters who, either look like me or look like they don't lift that are freakishly strong. Okay? So building strength and building power doesn't necessarily one-to-one mean that you're going to be big and massive. Just know that when you are improving your strength and you're improving your power, you can build muscle in that process. And the more muscle that you build, the more strength and power you can build as well. But it's not a primary focus for the Orc class. But if you want to build muscle in the Orc class, then you absolutely can. It's one of the best classes to do that, simply because you're going to be getting stronger, and by getting stronger, you're going to build more muscle. So I'm going to place the orc class as at A rank over here. Next, I want to dive into the Spartan class. So I'm going to place the Spartan class as of right now. I'm going to sit this class at like a D. Big reason why, and this is subject to change. We'll see. But big reason why is the Spartan class focuses on metabolic conditioning. So what that is you can kind of classify this class as the CrossFit style of training. So this is like higher intensity type training. Yes, it is. They use resistance training and weights and weightlifting as part of their workouts and their training style. However, it's much more higher intensity. There's more calories that are being burnt, right? Because your heart rate is up for an extended amount of time. And also, there's a higher risk of injury. This is an underrated factor when it comes to building muscle. Is if you get hurt while training, that is going to affect your muscle gains, right? And typically, the warriors that choose this class have a higher likelihood of, or a higher risk of injury. Of course, at Infinite, we always try to emphasize technique and proper preparation for your body to train intensely, but we can't neglect the fact that compared to the other classes, the Spartan class is a more risky class to choose, especially if you're focusing on muscle building. Because when it comes to building muscle, it's about longevity. It really is about consistent training over a long period of time, right? Because muscle building is a long process. It is the most difficult process in the fitness game because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of discomfort, and a lot of discipline to really build quality muscle and not a whole bunch of body fat in the process. So Spartan class, this is great for fat loss, not so good for muscle building. Can you build muscle training in the higher intensity? Absolutely. Absolutely can. But for now, I'm going to place Spartan at D rank. And since we're on the topic of the lower end range of the ranking system here, I got to put our rogue class at E. Now, again, there is no F, but E is definitely bottom when it comes to muscle building potential. Now, what is the rogue class at Infinite? Well, this is our calisthenics class. So this is primarily body weight training, and specifically when it comes to calisthenics, there is additional weight that you can apply. For example, doing weighted pull-ups, adding a weight vest, doing things, adding weight to your back when it comes to doing planks or things like that. There's a lot of variation to focus on progressive overload, which is the most important part of muscle building. But it is very, very difficult. It's actually the most difficult to build a substantial amount of muscle size with body weight training. And it is lower than the Spartan class, in my opinion, because at least the Spartan class, you're leveraging a lot of weight. You're leveraging barbell training, right? You're leveraging a lot of dumbbell training that you can increase in weight. So it's more intense. Maybe you're doing a lot of plyometric work in the Spartan class, which is a little bit more cardio based. But at least you're actually using a lot more weights in your movements compared to the rogue class with the calisthenics. So all that being said, the rogue class is still a great class, but when it comes to maximizing muscle gains, I absolutely don't recommend this class if that is your goal. There's a lot of other benefits to the rogue class, which I could definitely break down another tier list for other different types of masteries and fitness goals. But for muscle building, the rogue class gets that E rank, the lowest, in my opinion, out of all of these classes. Spoiler alert. Next up, let's dive into a wild card here. I want to go into the dragon class over here. So the dragon class is a hybrid style training class. So essentially the dragon class in Infinite is where all of our warriors in the dungeon train as, simply because it is basically using a lot of different types of training styles. They are the jack of all trades. So they train like all of these classes. So they don't necessarily do one thing incredible. Like, for example, the orc class. There's no other class that is better at generating power and doing powerlifting than the orc class, right? The dragon, just because they do powerlifting movements and stuff like that, doesn't mean it will always be better. It's just like in any other RPG you played, right? Every class has strengths and weaknesses. The fact that the dragon class is versatile and is well versed in all these different classes just means that they're not going to get max stats in like anything, essentially. So that being said, I'm going to place the dragon class at C. Definitely better than the Spartan class, because the dragon class does incorporate more specific muscle hypertrophy type training, which we'll get into in a moment. So I definitely place the dragon class at C, mainly because, again, the versatility and having access to these different types of training styles that can help with building more muscle. It's just that it won't be as focused as like other classes that may specialize in other areas that might benefit more when it comes to building muscle. So the dragon class, C rank. And I might as well jump straight to it now, since this is the most popular class at Infinite. We gotta start with the Barbarian here. Let's jump to the Barbarian class. Barbarian class was the first class that I ever trained as at Infinite. It's the first class that I started to mentor in the very, very beginning. And the Barbarian class at Infinite is our bodybuilding training style. There is a big reason why the Barbarian is one of the most popular classes, is simply because of the massive popularity of just the bodybuilding training style, and when it comes to just working out and health and fitness. I mean, it's big in the online space when it comes to social media. When people go to the gym, they imagine these figures in the gym with big muscle, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all the famous bodybuilders and things like that. So there's a lot of notoriety when it comes to the bodybuilding training style, and it's known all over the world, and it's practiced all over the world. So all that being said, the Barbarian class gets that S rank. Here's why. So the bodybuilding training style focuses primarily on muscle isolation, strategic techniques for maximizing muscle growth, for example, time under tension, controlled repetitions, muscle contraction, mind and muscle connection. It allows you to spread out your workouts throughout the week by focusing on particular muscle groups. So you can focus on building muscle in particular areas. You can break down these muscles with more volume compared to other different types of training styles. For example, powerlifting, right? You can't necessarily target a particular muscle group, like a smaller muscle group, I should say, by training only three movements, which is the squat, the bench, or the deadlift primarily, right? The barbarian class has over hundreds of exercise options, right? There's so many creative ways you can target particular areas of your body, but the big thing is that it's spread out throughout the week when it comes to volume wise. So that gives you ample amount of time to recover in between workouts, especially if, for example, you focus on particular upper body muscle groups on one day, and then you focus on particular lower body muscle groups on another day. Basically, now while you are training one area, you're building muscle in another area, and you can kind of go through this endless cycle of training your body as long as you're recovering properly. So there are so many reasons why the bodybuilding training style is the most optimal for maximizing muscle gains, and it's kind of like a no-brainer in a way that this is the best training style. I mean, you could just look at who has the most muscle on the planet, and it's bodybuilders, right? And you'd be surprised how many people don't want to look like bodybuilders, and yet they are training in the bodybuilding training style when they go to the gym. So if you're doing any type of dumbbell exercises, whether that's doing a dumbbell curl, an overhead press, all these different, lateral raises, whatever that may be, you're training in the bodybuilding training style because you're targeting particular muscle groups and you're isolating particular muscle groups. So I find that kind of funny is that people don't want to look like bodybuilders, and yet they're training in the bodybuilding training style all the time inside the gym. So I found that super funny. So the barbarian class gets that S rank. That's the best class to maximize muscle gains specifically. Next up, we got the ELF class. This is an interesting one. So the ELF class specializes in agile physique training. This is a pretty much broad kind of style of training, simply because this style of training focuses on a lot of different parts of fitness. So they focus on the aesthetics. So they incorporate resistance training, but they also incorporate specific areas that they want to target. Specifically, for example, for women, a lot of the lower body, glutes, and all of the feminine areas that they want to improve. And then also for the men, that could be arms, abs, or other different types of areas. But then they also incorporate mobility, they incorporate cardio, they incorporate flexibility, and they incorporate all of these different areas that go with the agile aspect. So it's not quite 100% aesthetics, like, for example, the barbarian class, but it's a little bit more of a kind of targeted physique sculpting kind of agile type of class. So this is a very, very unique case. So when I'm looking at this, I'm kind of leaning towards A or B. So I'm going to place the ELF class at B. I don't think it hits A particularly because the focus isn't primarily on building muscle. It's really just building a lean, defined, mobile, and agile type of physique. Can you build muscle 100%? Right? For example, a lot of the ELF warriors love to target and focus on the glutes and the butt area, right? And build a bigger, rounder, butt area, glutes. So that's part of it, but is it A when it comes to like, hey, I'm gonna choose this class, I'm guaranteed to like build mass and build muscle? I don't think so. I just don't think it quite hits that A rank where, for example, the powerlifters in the orc class are building muscle. Like if I were to take an orc and an elf, I mean, you could just look at the orc, right? The orc is definitely going to build more muscle than the elf. So I can't put the elf in the same category as the orc. So I'm going to place the elf at B rank because I do believe it absolutely is better than the dragon class at C rank here. So elf at B rank. Then let's go over to the dwarf 2 classes remaining. The dwarf class specializes in functional strength training. So this is an interesting one as well. The functional strength training incorporates a number of different exercises, movements, cardiovascular training that directly connects to real life movement and real life lifestyle decisions, right? So basically, in the functional strength training style, you focus on longevity, sustainability, and injury prevention. So all the exercises, movements, and training that you're doing focuses on that criteria, and this functional strength training absolutely connects to muscle building. Just similar as the orc class, for example, like I was sharing before, when you're building strength, when you're building power, that also turns into muscle in that process. And it's no different than doing functional strength training. The big difference is that you're not only doing heavy barbell compound movements like the orc class, for example. So that being said, obviously the best way to maximize results is to incorporate barbell training, right? Because number one, you can add more weight to the bar, right? And if you can lift heavier, that in theory will turn into more muscle growth over time, right? The dwarf class does use barbell training, but it doesn't only use that. So it doesn't emphasize it as much. It's just one component and one part of it. But building strength does turn into muscle in that process of building strength. So that being said, I think I am actually going to place the dwarf class at an A rank just below the orc class for that big reason. You can get stupid strong by training in the dwarf class, maybe not as strong as the orc class, but still the strength gains that and the muscle gains that you can get in the process of building your strength in all these different movement patterns throughout your whole entire body can result into some massive muscle growth if nutritionally you're fueling that. We're not talking about the mastery itself, the earth mastery, which focuses on nutritional alchemy. We're just talking about the training. So training wise, when you are emphasizing more strength movements, that's absolutely going to equate into some more muscle gains. And I don't think it's B. I don't think it's a B rank alongside the elf class because I've seen a lot of success. I mean, personally, and with a lot of the warriors at Infinite, training in the functional strength training style as the dwarf, and I've definitely seen some awesome muscle gains. So, dwarf class is definitely primed for some awesome muscle gains, but just not as much as the orc, and especially not as much as the barbarian. But still, A rank for dwarf class. And last but not least, the Olympian class. The Olympian class is the sports performance training style. So this is another versatile training style like the Dragon class, but it's very sports specific. So this can be a wide range of different types of training styles, from outdoor conditioning, from indoor compound movements and training and things like that. It could be training for running, swimming, soccer, basketball, football, you name it. And since there's so much variety and so much specific training that must be done for the Olympic class, it's a tricky one. It's a very, very tricky one because there's some sports, for example, that require more muscle and that require doing training that actually results in more muscle growth. Um, it's funny, I was actually looking into speed cycling. If you have not looked up speed cycling, uh, look that up. Look at the size of their legs. It's insane. They look like straight up bodybuilders. They have bigger legs than some bodybuilders. Um, it's insane. Now, do they focus specifically on uh, building mass just in the lower body? No, it's just a literal byproduct of training for their sport. So they have massive, massive legs, but then you also look at someone who's like a swimmer, right? They don't have big, massive muscles. They have a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers, which is just a lot of smaller muscle fibers that can activate faster and are really, really strong. That's why you get all the lanky type individuals in the swimming. So they're not going to be looking massive. So all that being said, in my opinion, the Olympian class sits at around. I'm going to place the Olympian class, again, it's kind of like a little bit of a wild card here. I'm going to sit it at right next to the Dragon class, in my opinion. So the Dragon class part of the Dragon class is training in the hypertrophy training style. But again, with the wild card of all these different types of sports in the Olympian class, it gets a little tricky. Like, you can't guarantee that you're going to build a lot of muscle if you're going to be a soccer player, for example, or a swimmer, or things like that. So I got to place it there, and I also got to place it above the Spartan class as well, because there's a lot of sports, there's a lot of things that you can do to build muscle in your sport. So, for example, football, right? Football is a prime example. So I can't necessarily put the Olympian class in D rank, so I'm going to place it at C rank. And I think I'm going to settle with this tier list. So to recap, we have the Barbarian at S rank, which specializes in the bodybuilding training style. It's the best training style for, volume, frequency, muscle isolation, and just the focus on primarily building muscle as the training style. So I don't think anything beats that. Then we have in A rank, we have the Orc class, which specializes in powerlifting training style. And again, when you build strength, when you build power, that also turns into muscle gains in that process if you fuel it with nutrition. And just like the Dwarf class, which is also an A rank class for muscle gains, it's the same thing. They're focusing on strength, but it's a lot more functional strength that carries over to real life. And it's a lot safer, and it focuses more on injury prevention and things like that. So that sits at A rank. Then at B rank, we have the ELF class, which specializes in the agile physique training style. And again, this training style can focus on building muscle in particular areas, but they're mainly focusing on movement, speed, flexibility, mobility, and just a little bit more movement focused rather than strength and muscle focused like the Dwarf or the Barbarian or even the Orc class. So that they sit at the B rank there. Then we have the Dragon class at C rank, which is the jack of all trades, the hybrid training style. They specialize in all of these training styles. So they're mixing and matching all of these different types of training styles. So with that variety, you're getting a lot of the benefits of building muscle with the Dragon class, which at Infinite is exclusive to the Dungeon realm. And beyond that, we have the Olympian class at C rank. Again, this is the sports performance training styles. This is very particular to different types of sports. There are a lot of sports that build more muscle compared to others, so I have to sit that at around that C rank. And then we have the Spartan class, which is the metabolic conditioning training style, which is more of like the CrossFit type training style. Yes, you can build muscle in this training style, but one, you have to factor in injury risk, right? Because if you get hurt, that means that you're going to be working out less, and that means you won't be able to build as much mass as the bodybuilder who's training more safely, or the barbarian who's training more safely, as I can say. But it still is a great option when it comes to building muscle in that higher intensity type training style, but it's more risky. Then last but not least, we have the Rogue class at Infinite, which sits at the E rank all the way at the bottom when it comes to muscle gains potential. Yes, you can absolutely build muscle training in calisthenics and progressive overload, but it's going to be way harder. It's going to take way longer compared to all these other classes. And it's just an absolute grind for the average person who's just trying to maximize their muscle gains as quickly as possible. So, all that being said, that is the tier list. And if you're wondering, how can I select this class, train in these training styles, get a training program, and also, more importantly, get a nutrition program, right? A nutritional alchemy program that's going to fuel your goals of building muscle, as well as a mental intellect program that's going to be fueled with a gamification and specifically turning fitness into more of like a game-like environment so you stay engaged and you stay motivated, then of course head over to infiniterpg.com. Feel free to join and register for our bronze tier completely for free, and consider checking out either our Sanctum, which is our one-on-one mentorship realm, our Academy, which we just introduced muscle building in our Earth Mastery in the Academy. So look for more information on that. And then lastly, we have our Dungeon, which is a little bit more of our mobile app training experience, very, very combat focused. Again, kind of teaching you all different types of training styles and challenging you in different ways. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free, again, to head over to infiniterpg.com. And that is the tier list. What's up, everybody? How you doing? What do you think? Did you guess that the Barbarian was going to be top tier? Let me know in the chat. Did you guess that the Rogue class was going to be bottom of the tier list at E rank? Let me know where you guys are at. Did you enjoy that breakdown? Let me know. Great to have you here, Tierra Akula. Did you guys enjoy that? Let me know. I enjoyed it. I thought I had a blast, and it's kind of funny. I kind of went through it in my mind, and I kind of did a little mock one before, and it's funny. I switched some classes around, and I wasn't expecting to end with this. This one was slightly different. But I like the end result when it comes to classification. Once I kind of talked it through with you guys, I think it's such a interesting kind of setup, in my opinion, when it comes to focusing on muscle gains in these different training styles, and just the fact that there are these different training styles. Jasper, you mentioned Barbarian will always be top tier for muscle building, unless there's a Frieza class. Yeah, that's the wild card right there, the Frieza class. Who knows? Just keep getting bigger and bigger as the power level increases. Yep, the barbarians are the victors here. Um, and it's pretty obvious, right? Pretty obvious. And don't get me wrong, like orc class at A rank is close second. Like it's just one notch below. There are some massive powerlifters. I mean, just look at Thor Bjornsson, look at Eddie Hall. They're not bodybuilders. They're powerlifters. They're strong men. Strength and muscle have a direct connection with one another. So just because you may or may not be into the bodybuilding training style and you want to build muscle in the most amount of muscle you can, you still can train as these other classes like the orc class and even the dwarf class for functional strength, right? A lot of the muscle building is, really giving yourself an environment for growth. So nutritionally, making sure that you are eating enough, not eating too much calories so that you're gaining a lot of body fat in the process. So you really want to make sure you're getting enough protein and you're getting enough calories, and you're training hard enough, and you're training correctly for maximizing muscle growth. And now you know the best ways to do that. And sweet, thank you. I'm happy you enjoyed the informative breakdown. And just Parker said, even Mike O'Hearn, the natural, is a barbarian. Yes, yes, he even is a barbarian. And something I do want to mention as closing remarks here. There are a lot of warriors and a lot of people that I've spoke to that kind of leaned more towards the hybrid style of training. And what I mean by that is like combining, for example, bodybuilding and powerlifting. And I always say to these people that, yeah, you can focus on incorporating bodybuilding elements or incorporating powerlifting type training, but there always is a primary goal or an emphasis that you have to stick to. Is power going to take priority over mass? Or is mass going to take priority over power? Because there's pros and cons, right? When you're focusing more on mass, that means you're not going to be focusing as much on power, and vice versa. So that's something that I always say, is that there's this popular term, power building. Key word is the first part, power, and then building. So essentially you're focusing on power first, then the bodybuilding aspect second. So I always ask which is first and which is second. You can't focus on both. I mean you can, but when it comes to, all right, which do you want more power or more muscle? You got to pick one. And at Infinite, if you don't want to pick one, well, just train as our dragon class, right? They train in all different types of training styles, incorporate power, strength, muscle building, calisthenics, every other class. Like if you want to have an all-around, knowledge and experience in all these different training styles, pick the dragon class. But if you want to maximize the benefits of each class, power, mass, calisthenics, CrossFit style and endurance and high intensity stuff, metabolic conditioning, then you gotta settle with something, right? Just know that if you do pick the dragon class that specializes and does everything, you're not going to be great basically at everything, right? That's just the downsides. So there's always pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses with every decision that you make, and that's something that our class system at Infinite does very, very well, is really showing you like, hey, if you choose this class, here are the pros and cons, here are the benefits, here are the risks, and here are the strengths and here are the weaknesses, just like in any RPG that you've played before, right? Every character, there's character builds for everybody, right? There's no one size fits all build. You can't max out all of your stats. Sorry. Like you can't have the biggest muscles and then be the strongest and then be able to run 20 miles, and then be able to do a one-handed push-up in a handstand. Ain't happening. Right? Ain't happening. No way. No one on the planet can do that. Only Goku. Well, that being said, drop any questions that you might have in the chat here. Final questions, final comments. Share your thoughts. Say hello. Let me know how you doing. Question from Bold Nothing. Where do I go to access the muscle building course? Yeah, so basically, if you are in the academy, stay tuned for more muscle building specific quests. That's going to be rolling out periodically. The primary thing when it comes to muscle building is going to be the combat training. So if you're in the academy, you have access to the whole entire combat training experience inside of our fitness app. So feel free to jump straight into that. Then look out for some alchemy content and some other intellect content as well inside the course that I'll be rolling out periodically all throughout the rest of this month and going into July. So there's always going to be something new to learn and experience specifically about muscle building. Excited to make content specifically for muscle building. Very, very excited because, again, muscle building is the most difficult fitness goal in the fitness game, period. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of variables, a lot of mistakes that a lot of people make. So I'm excited to kind of drop more content on there exclusively inside the academy. So quests that you can complete and XP that you can be earning by completing the content so that you can level up and get some more muscle gains. So great question. Stay tuned. Any other questions? Hit me with any questions you got. Still a beautiful day out here in Washington. Sun's still out. Starting to get nice and cool. I think it's about to be perfect walking weather. So about to finish off the day, get some extra steps in. Still focusing on the fat loss mastery as of right now. But for those of you who are focusing on the muscle building mastery, don't neglect your step count. It still matters, right? Definitely important just for overall health, overall mental clarity, and just moving your body and getting your blood flowing in your body. Very, very important. Just keep an eye out on how many steps you're doing, right? Keep an eye out on how your weight fluctuations. Are you gaining weight? Are you still losing weight? Might need to make adjustments based on that. FYI. And of course, feel free to join the academy and feel free to receive any support that you need when it comes to making adjustments to this stuff at our weekly coaching calls that we have in our academy. So feel free to join us, drop any questions so that I can support you and the rest of our warriors at inside of our academy can support you as well. So all that being said, looks like no more questions. Thank you all for joining me live here. This is now a weekly thing. This is now my third live in a row, so we gotta keep this ball rolling. Feel free to join me next Wednesday Haven't quite yet got a topic yet, but if there's anything that you'd like me to cover, I absolutely totally can chat about it. Let me know on Discord or Facebook, wherever you are. And yeah, excited to go live again next week and share more and share more about Infinite and the fitness game and to support you on your health and fitness journey. So, as always, this is Master Wizard Walt, your guide by your side on your fitness fantasy RPG adventure through Infinite. I'll see y'all next Wednesday on Warrior Wednesday. Conquer the rest of your day. Conquer the rest of your week, Warriors. Peace.